morning, everybody. And here we are for another great reading session. Hope everybody's been having a great start to the day. So I was in my vibe this morning where we did some really good exercise. I can feel my abs, I can feel my arms, I can feel everything, which is a really great start to the day. Let me quickly just pin the video. There we go. And so after all of that, it is time to get into some reading, which is another really great thing to be doing to start the day off. So remember that reading is going to be able to help you sleep better. So not for now, unless you're in a country where you're about to go to sleep. It is definitely just brand new morning here, but it has so many great benefits. So let's do some reading together. That's the book that we're going to plan to read, but I only have the Chinese version. But we have a great alternative, The Art of Thinking Clearly, which has given us some really interesting little short stories. And today we're reading a chapter called False Prophets, chapter 40, and it's called The Forecast Illusion. So let's get into it. It is a lot of fun. So, Facebook to be #1 entertainment platform in 3 years. Regime shift in North Korea in 2 years. Sour grapes for France as Argentinian wines expected to dominate. Euro collapse likely. Low-cost space flights by 2025. No more crude oil in 15 years. Every day, experts bombard us with predictions, but how reliable are they? Until a few years ago, no one bothered to check. Then along came Philip Tetlock. Over a period of 10 years, he evaluated 28,361 predictions from 284 self-appointed professionals. The result? In terms of accuracy, the experts fared only marginally better than a random forecast generator. Ironically, the media darlings were among the poorest performance, and of those, the worst were the prophets of doom and disintegration. Examples of their far-fetched forecasts include the collapse of Canada, Nigeria, China, India, Indonesia, South Africa, Belgium, and the EU. None of these countries has imploded. There are two kinds of forecasters, those who don't know and those who don't know they don't know, wrote Harvard economist John Kenneth Galbraith. With this, he made himself a figure of hatred in his own guild. Fund manager Peter Lynch summed it up even more cuttingly. There are 60,000 economists in the US, many of them employed full-time trying to forecast recessions and interest rates, and if they could do it successfully twice in a row, they'd all be millionaires by now. As far as I know, most of them are still gainfully employed, which ought to tell us something. That was 10 years ago. Today, the US could employ 3 times as many economists with little or no effect on the quality of their forecasts. It's so true, actually, because we as humans, we want to be able to control what we know. We want to be able to think that we are in control of certain things. And so we create this illusion for ourselves that we're able to make forecasts. But obviously, the world isn't controlled by us. The world just does what it does automatically. And there are so many factors that come in to create what happens that there is no way for us to really know what will happen in the future. The problem is that experts enjoy free rein with few negative consequences because we want to be able to have experts. So if we fire them all, we have nothing to hold on to. We feel like we are not in control. And it is a real big problem for us with our mentality of how we like to perceive the world. If they strike it lucky, they enjoy publicity, consultancy offers, and publication deals. If they're completely off the mark, they face no penalties, either in terms of financial compensation or in lost reputation. And that is because we know that they can't predict things correctly, and so we give them the benefit of the doubt when they get it wrong, and we celebrate them when they get it right. This win-win scenario virtually incentivizes them to churn out as many prophecies as they can muster. Indeed, the more forecasts they generate, the more will be coincidentally correct. And that is absolutely true. So the more times you make a prediction, the more often you're going to get it right. That could open up a whole can of worms if we start talking about astrology and different other things similar to that. Because there are certain ways in which you can write astrology or you can make predictions of varying types that are going to seem correct, even though they may not be correct. Ideally, they should have to pay into some sort of forecast fund, say $1,000 per prediction. If the forecast is correct, the expert gets his money back with interest. If he's wrong, the money goes to charity. Now, there'll be many people who will take you up on that one. So what is predictable and what is not? Some things are fairly simple. For example, I have a rough idea of how many pounds I will weigh in a year's time. However, the more complex a system, the longer the time frame, the more blurred the view of the future will be. Global warming, oil prices, or exchange rates are almost impossible to foresee. Inventions are not at all predictable, because if we could know what technology we would invent in the future, we would have already invented it. So be critical when you encounter predictions. Whenever I hear one, I make sure to smile, no matter how bleak it is. Then I ask myself two questions. First, what incentives does the expert have? If he's an employee, could he lose his job if he's always wrong? Or is he a self-appointed guru who earns a living through books and lectures? The latter type of forecaster relies on the media's attention, so predictably, his prophecies tend to be sensational. Second, how good is his success rate? How many predictions has he made over the past 5 years? Out of these, how many have been right and how many have not? This information is vital, yet often goes unreported. I implore the media, please don't publish any more forecasts without giving the pundits track record. Finally, since it's so fitting, a quote from former British Prime Minister Tony Blair: "I don't make predictions, I never have, and I never will." So it's interesting. We like to have a look at what is forecast and what other people are predicting. And I've always noticed that there are people that will predict one thing, that it's going up, or other people will predict that it's going down. And so I've learned to do as much research as I can, to find out as much as I can about what I can control around the situation. And then I make my decision. And obviously the same thing applies. So if somebody who predicts things makes lots of predictions, at some stage one of them will be correct. So if I find a number of companies, a number of properties, and I invest into a couple of different things, then one of them should, if I've done a lot of good research, be profitable, whereas some of the others may not. And the reason why that works is because I have done the numbers. And of course, it's impossible to predict what will happen to all of them, but some of them should be able to be successful and some of them may not. And the idea is to hopefully get to a point where you have some really good ones that you found, and the ones that are not so good are not going to go down by as much as the ones that are good have gone up. So it's impossible to predict, but we need to be able to understand that there are certain things that we can control, and that if we have access to more information, we can't predict, but we can make informed choices. And I think that is the big difference. And I see a few more love hearts on Bigo Live, so thank you for those. And yes, it is good to see you all. Thank you for joining today. And I think I've managed to say hello to everybody. And I just saw a message in the chat on Zoom. Isn't this similar to the halo effect? Previous chapter. Past performances do not guarantee future performance. Absolutely. So at the end of every chapter, actually, interestingly, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little section here, and it will tell you which other chapters are similar to it. So it says, see also Expectations, chapter 62, Planning Fallacy, chapter 91, Authority Bias, chapter 9 that we've already read, Hindsight Bias, chapter 14, Overconfidence Effect, chapter 15, Illusion of Control, chapter 17, Hedonic Treadmill, chapter 46, which is coming up, and Black Swan, chapter 75. So every chapter has quite a few, actually, that it will relate to. So they're all very similar. And then I'm sure everybody has lots of different things to do. I need to jump into the car very soon. I've got a couple of phone calls coming up in order to be able to make sure that I am not persuaded by all of the predictions of the experts, but that I am going out and doing the things that I know that are going to bring benefit to me and that I feel are good for me. And I haven't left it in the hands of experts. I am taking it into my own hands to do my own research, to do my own thinking, to find what I have discovered works for me. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It is impossible to predict the future. But what we can do is we can learn to see some patterns, we can learn to get a little bit better, and we can learn to roll with the punches. Sometimes things work out and sometimes they don't, but we can work hard to be able to get as much information as possible so that it can work out a little bit more often than that it doesn't go so well. And I think that is a really important factor. The fact that very often we put all of our money into one thing and hope that that will work out. Whereas we may not be able to predict what will happen to that one thing, but if we put it into various different things, unless, and the only person that would disagree with that is Warren Buffett, who doesn't like diversification, but he does some very, very intense research into the companies that he invests in. But he's also gotten lucky with a few of them because something horribly wrong could have gone, or something could have gone horribly wrong, if I can say that expression correctly, with one of the very first things that he invested in when he was younger. And it could have wiped him out completely or sent him into demotivation to never get back into the stock market again. So I think it's a question of diversifying a little bit to be able to make sure that you can find some things that are going to be successful, and you're always going to find some that are not so successful. On that note, tomorrow, chapter 41, the deception of specific cases, which is the conjunction fallacy. So that one should be another really interesting one. I am looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow for that one. Have a great day today. See if you can predict something for today and how well you manage to predict it. And then we'll see you tomorrow. And then maybe you can share in the chat if you are in the Zoom or Bigo Live. You can share in the chat whether your prediction for today came true. And we might have a chat about that, actually, if some of you do that. That would be a lot of fun. And if you're on the YouTube and watching the replay, then feel free to also share your thoughts. And I always love reading the comments and seeing what everybody has been saying. And I love creating the discussion around it. So I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for chapter 41, the deception of specific cases, the conjunction fallacy. Have a great day today, and I'll see you all tomorrow.